What's up, guys? How are you guys doing? I had to throw on my Love Black People Like You Love Black Coffee bandana from @CoffeeBlackman. Gotta love them, dude. Shout out to those guys over there. I just finished off my bag of Gucci Mane and I already miss it, dude. That was a wonderful coffee. Anyways, with the holidays passing and stuff like that, I'm sure all you other coffee geeks and nerds got a bunch of coffee equipment and maybe too many bags to do anything with. So one of my gifts for this Christmas, which I was super stoked about, was the Origami dripper. Now, this dripper carries a lot of history for only have been around for just a small amount of time. I mean, it was used in the World Brewer Cup Championship. It's got a lot of hype, and honestly, just because of how aesthetically pleasing it is, it took flight instantly. It sells off of multiple different websites with a ton of different carriers. I personally got mine off of Slow Pour Supply, and I absolutely love this thing. Kind of. I'm not saying it's going to be a replacement to my everyday Chemex, but it definitely holds a special place in my heart within the first week that I've been using it. This thing is super cool, man. And I think with the added workflow of having the new Stagg kettle, it's going to fit great into my daily operations. And not only that, but it looks damn good. So before we get too ahead of ourselves, I kind of want to talk about some of the pros and some of the cons that I've personally noticed for using it for just such a short period of time. This isn't a review, don't take my word too seriously, but let's talk about some of the things that I've noticed while using it. For starters, I'm going to hit you guys with a couple of the cons, and a lot of these are going to be situational and dependent on how you decide to use the brewer, but these are just some of the things that I've noticed since using it in the first week. Starters, you gotta be careful on which one you're looking at buying. From my research, I could tell that there's at least 2 and maybe even 3 different sizes of this filter currently listed on Slow Pour Supply's website. That's where I chose to purchase mine. I just really trust them and kind of wanted to send my money that way. But regardless, there is 2 different sizes. This means that the Kalita 185 filters don't really fit in the smaller sized brewer. You can do a little bit of priming to it to make it happen. I kind of take a chopstick in there and just push some of the corners back against each other so everything sits nicely. However, most people would recommend against using the Kalita filter entirely. They say that the V60 allows for more airflow and more control, which is really what this filter is after anyways. However, in the Brewer Championship, the brewer himself, he did use a Kalita Wave, so it's kind of cool that you have a choice between them. And even further, Slow Pour Supply has gone as far as carrying Origami V60 style specific cone filter papers for the dripper, which is really, really cool. So you have a lot of options there to choose from. However, I think it's kind of wary. You get this new dripper and you expect there to be a one solution fits all, and you kind of have to do some of your own research. Prometheus has a fantastic video where he talks about the differences in both clarity, acidity, and body that he gets from using either a V60 or a Kalita, and it's super interesting. So if you want to learn more about that, I would go check out his video. Now, I don't know if I would consider this one as much of a con as it is kind of just a subtle subconscious fear that I have, but this thing is so pretty that I'm really nervous to drop it or break it or do anything like that. It's a ceramic glazed type situation going on, and I don't have any idea about the structural integrity of it, but I'm very terrified to even knock this thing in the dishwasher. It's a little bit intimidating to use. However, I think its aesthetics and its beauty overall kind of outweighs this situation, and you just have to treat it like you would another glass Chemex. But overall, that's kind of a me thing, and I really don't know if you'll deal with that too, but just a heads up, it's kind of what I've been thinking. Now, this next con is definitely a bit of a stretch, but it kind of bugged me at first, and I got over it pretty quickly, but it was definitely something that broke up my work routine a little bit, which was super interesting to deal with. You can't pre-wet these filters in the sink. They just, you can't do it. Like with a Chemex filter, man, you can just take that thing out of a box, run it under sink water, open it up, tuck it in, and everything is fine. But with the Kalita Wave filters, on the other hand, they just kind of crumble and crinkle, and then they get flat, and there's no real situating them again to put them back into the brewer. However, it does just kind of take out one step, and now instead of pre-wetting my filter in the sink, I'm doing it with the hot water inside of the brewer to also build my thermal mass. That's kind of all of the cons that I can think about with using it, and let's move on to the pros now. Now, moving on to the pros of the Origami dripper. For starters, this thing looks fucking cool, man. It is just a gorgeous dripper. It's a gorgeous vessel. It's a nice piece to have that really just adds to the collection. And on top of that, they're pretty cheap and they're super customizable. There's a whole pack you can buy on Slow Pour Supply's website for I believe like $45. That's gonna get you a brewer, the collar, and it's gonna get you some filters, which is super, super sick. A lot of these high-end brewers can cost you a little bit more money, and sometimes it's hard to justify whether or not they're worth spending. I mean, why get both a Chemex and a V60? Really, what's the difference here? But that is part of the reason that I do love the Origami dripper, because you have some choice on what kind of filter and what style you use to pour with. So it's super cool and versatile in that sense. Another pro of this is that it is super easy to clean. There's no fuss with having to try to stick a sponge down through the porthole in a Chemex, nothing like that. All you do is you take it out, you rinse it with a little bit of water, you set it aside, and you're good to go. It's super neat, super clean, and I absolutely love that it cuts down on the fuss between brews. Another thing that I think is pretty interesting about this dripper is it gives you the choice of whether you want to pour into a carafe or straight into your mug to drink. As long as that collar sits anywhere, you can pretty much brew onto whatever vessel you want to. And I think that's super tight. A lot of the times too, because if I want to change my amount of coffee, I could brew into a smaller cup, I could brew into a travel mug, I could brew into anything that I wanted to. And I think that little bit of added versatility is really tight. And I also think that's how they cut down on a little bit of the cost too. I mean, imagine if you bought this thing and it came with its own carafe. You're easily looking at spending another $40 on this possibly. So I think that's super tight. However, it is a little bit annoying. You gotta find just the right vessel to brew into, and I definitely had my own experience of thinking I was gonna be able to hold enough of the coffee at the end and watching it spill out of the sides. So you gotta be a little bit careful with that. To kind of wrap up my overall thoughts, I really do like this dripper, and I think it's super awesome and totally worth the pretty decent price range on it. However, this kind of goes out to every company that sells its own drippers, all the different styles, everything like that. Make more packs. I love that Slow Pour Supply is doing it and including filters with it, but it's always kind of been obnoxious having to both buy the dripper itself and then buy the separate filters. When you get into the specialty coffee world and you live in an area that's not really specialty coffee friendly, it's difficult to find these brew specific papers just at any regular grocery store. You always have to purchase them online, and that'll set you back a couple of days. But I have noticed that with this Origami, I can use metal filters, V60, whatever filters I want to, so it kind of worked out in the long run. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I would definitely recommend picking up one of these drippers. They're super sick, they're with the trend right now, they're in the fad. Be like all the other kids on the block and go buy yourself one, man. And I wish this was sponsored or something so I could get a little doll on the side from them. Regardless, I absolutely love this thing, man, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I'll catch you on the dial side. Peace.